This video is going to show you two examples of how to do mole conversion. So I'll do one shorter one-step problem, and then I'll do one longer two-step problem. So this chart is really handy, so you're going to want to have this out as you're going through this example with me. Notice everything relates to moles. So the other units are grams, which is a unit, right, for mass. Particles, which could be anything, but we're going to talk about particles as ions, atoms, formula units, or molecules. And then liters, which is a unit for volume. So we can relate all of those to moles, then we can convert to any other unit. So the things written in green are how you do that conversion. So when it comes to particles, it's always this 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. That's how many particles are in a mole, whether your particles are ions, atoms, molecules, formula units. When it comes to volume, 1 mole is always going to be 22.4 liters. Doesn't matter what you have. It's always going to be 22.4. When it comes to grams, this is the only one that's going to change from problem to problem. Grams amount is going to be different depending on what you have. This number is calculated from your periodic table. So this is what was in the molar mass video and the example problem. That's where you add up the masses of all of your parts in a compound. So I will do an example of that in one of the problems. So first let's do a simpler one-step problem. So let's say we have 0.23 moles of ALN, aluminum nitride, and we want to know how many molecules that is. So if I go back to the chart, I can see I'm starting at moles. So I'm starting in the middle here, right? And I'm going this route to particles, okay? Because my molecules are right there. Okay, so this is the conversion factor I'm going to use to do this conversion. It's just a one step, okay? So I go back to here. Always start with writing what you're given. Don't start with what was in the chart. Start with the number given to you in the problem. So I start by writing 0.23 moles. Make sure you write the unit because that's going to really help you. And the substance, ALN. And then set up your conversion factor. Remember this number you're given, this is over 1. So if you want to write this over 1 to remember that's in the numerator, go for it. Alright, so now just do units. Don't worry about numbers yet in your conversion factor. Just do units on the top and bottom. I know I want to put moles on the bottom because I want them to cancel. By canceling, you don't want them to go away. I don't want moles, I want molecules. So, going back to my chart, my arrow's pointing to what I'm calculating, which is molecules, so that's what goes on the top of my conversion factor. And then now I can put in the numbers. So I go back here, I look at what's in green. 1 mole is always going to be my mole amount. My particles, which is a molecule, is always going to be 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. So now I just put those numbers next to those units. So by mole, I write 1. By molecules, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And now I can see that unit-wise, moles being on top and bottom will divide out. So I'm going to cross it out. So I know it is gone, and I'm not going to deal with it anymore. So I have molecules left, and so now I'm ready for my calculator. When you type this in, remember to be careful with your scientific notation. So this is how you should type it in your calculator. You should type in 0.23. Calculator. 0.23, and then you're going to do times. And then for the 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd, you're going to type in 6.02. And then on your calculator, you have that scientific notation button. Most of you have a calculator that has this 2 E's. Okay, some of you have an EXP. Most of you have something like this. Or some of you have a little times 10 with an N. So you got to find that button. That replaces this whole part right here. So the only other thing you type after that button is the exponent, which is 23. So you type this in your calculator, you're going to get this big answer. Okay, how do you round it? Well, sig digs, when you're doing conversions, are going to match the first number and the last number, your answer. So you look at this one, and this one is 2 sig digs. So your answer over here should also be 2 sig digs. So you look at your calculator, and you're round this to 2, which would be 1.4. Don't forget, way at the end, you have a times 10. You have a number in scientific notation. The end, it might actually say like E, and then a number. Be careful and look for that. Times 10, and mine says 23, so that's my exponent. Don't forget to write your units, so molecules. Okay, so there's your answer to 2 sig digs. All right, so let's do one more, a little bit more complex, a little bit longer, 2 steps. So let's say we have 17.3 liters of CH4, and we want to know how many grams that is. All right, so if I go back to my chart, all right, so this time I'm starting at liters, here. Okay, so we're starting here, and we're going all the way to grams. So we're going to go liters to moles, right? There's our first step, and then we're going to go moles to grams. So there's 2 steps in this problem. So we're going to use this conversion factor, and then we're also going to use this one, where we have to calculate on our periodic table the mass of the CH4. So always start by writing what you're given, which was 17.3 liters. So I write 17.3 liters CH4. Okay, here's my first conversion factor. Units first. Liters, I want them to go away, so I'm going to put them on the bottom, opposite, always opposite. On my chart, liters, the arrow points to moles. That's my top unit. So now I'm going to look at the numbers. For liters is always going to be 22.4, for moles is always going to be 1. I'm going to put those in. So 1 mole, 22.4 liters, and I'm going to cancel the units that divide out. Right? But I'm not done like the last one at this point because I want to find grams. So I have to keep going. So I just draw another conversion factor. And now I'm at moles in the middle. So now I have to do this step. Okay? So moles and grams are my conversion factor. So let's put our units in. Moles to cancel. So bottom, right, opposite. Grams on top. So it's always 1 mole. The grams is the only one that changes, and this is what you have to calculate for CH4. So I'm going to add up carbon and hydrogen. These are the 2 parts. And look at my formula. I have 1 carbon. I have 4 hydrogens. Those are these subscripts, right? And when there isn't a subscript, it's a 1. So I multiply times their mass on the periodic table. So I look up carbon. Carbon I'm going to round to 12.01, right? 2 numbers after the decimal. Hydrogen is rounding to 1.01. So carbon, all of the carbon, there's only 1, so it's 12.01. All of the hydrogen, so all 4 of them, is 4.04, which gives me a total mass, right, I'm going to add these up, of 16.05. That is my number for here. That's my grams, right? Remember, that's grams per mole. So I'm going to write in here 16.05. Okay, and then I can look at my units. Moles divide out. All right, and now I know I'm ready for my calculator because the only thing not crossed out is my unknown, my question mark here. So when you type this in, okay, calculator, there's a couple ways you can do it. Okay, I would ignore ones. Multiplying, dividing by 1 does not change anything. So I just go left to right. You can go across the top, or you can go section at a time. So, choices. You could do 17.3, and then across the top. Times, we can skip the 1, 16.05. And then I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to divide by 22.4. That's one way to do it. Or you can go, it's too far, like a section at a time. Like, you can do 17.3. And then divide by 22.4 because it's on the bottom, and then multiply by 16.05. Either one will give you the same answer. So just pick a way that you like and do it that same way every time. So when you type this in, you're going to get this big answer on your calculator. You can have, because this is 2 sig digs, you can have 2 sig digs for your answer over here. So on my calculator, I'm going to round this to 12, or sorry, not 2 sig digs. 3. I hope you caught that. 3 sig digs. So I'm going to round this to 12.4. my units are grams.